Hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson on determining business goals and pain points. As you know already, before we start building any report, it's super important to understand what the people who will be using it need and want. And this is what we call requirements gathering, right? But more important than understanding what users need and want is to understand why they want it. So as you can see, for this module, I have decided to divide the requirements gathering process in two different stages. The first stage is more about understanding or determining the business goals and pain points of your stakeholders and your end users, identifying the audience and the report type, and defining your UI requirements. The second stage of requirements gathering is the user journeys, and the user journeys are basically what will glue all the information we gathered before together. It's important to understand again that in the first stage we are trying to put together as much information as possible, and in the second stage we are getting more into the end user or the head of the end user and the stakeholder and trying to understand how they will actually use this report so that we can evaluate what is important to them, how should we show that information or those insights in our report. And I think this is the most important step in terms of guaranteeing that your report will have a good user experience and that it will answer your users' business questions effectively. But before we start, I always talk too much as usual. Let's dive deeper into the first step of the requirements gathering stage, which is determining the business goals and pain points. I think one of the biggest mistakes that report developers do when they are in the report design stage already is focusing on what the users want and not on understanding why they want it in the first place. I think this is, again, the number one mistake that I've seen pretty much everyone doing. And let me tell you this, the most important question that you can ask your end users and your stakeholders is why you want a report, why you want to see this metric, why do you want to see this sales over time line chart. Don't ask what, ask why. Really try to understand not what they want, but why they want it. But we will talk a lot more about this in the user journeys lesson, which I think will help you a lot more on guiding the conversation around the why and not on the what. For now, we will be focusing on a few other things that I think are still crucial when you're developing your report designs. So the first thing we need to understand is the company itself. You need to understand the company, the way it operates, the business processes, and of course this is more applicable if you're in a kind of consulting kind of role. If you're in-house, you know already the company, or you should know. You probably know the business processes already, you know all the teams and the way everything works, so maybe you don't need to spend that much time on doing this first task. The second thing we should work on is the problem statement, and I've seen a lot of places online, I'm not sure where now, people saying if you're not improving a process or solving a business pain point or problem, then the report is not needed. So this all goes beyond just report design. I think that when you get to the report design, you should have done all of this already, of course. So this is something that you can totally take later on after the bootcamp and start doing it or applying these principles at the beginning of the report development process and not leave it just to the end or to the design part, which is like the last bit that you will do in the project. The third thing we will be looking at is the business goals. So once we figure out what is the process like or business processes like that we are trying to improve or what pain are we trying to solve, it's time to understand what are the goals from the business. The business goals need to be somehow directly related with your team or the company overall strategy. This new reporting solution you will be building needs to bring value to the business somehow. Value that didn't exist before, preferably. Either it is saving time or having a better understanding over a business process so that we can improve it, saving money. We need to have a goal for this report. Finally, we are going to talk about success criteria. In the success criteria phase, ideally, we would quantify the benefits and the value that this solution is going to bring to the business. And I'm not just talking about saying something like it will save time. No, we need to quantify this because this will be important to measure not just the efficiency of the solution that you are going to develop, but also it's good for you because later on you can go to your one-on-one with your manager or your skip manager and just tell them this reporting solution that I developed improved or saved time of like 2 people that used to take, I don't know, 3 days building an Excel report, and now this is all done automatically in Power BI. The report is effective, it's being widely used and widely adopted, so this project was a success. So you want to tell this stuff, you want to have those success stories. This is why it's so important to also define the success criteria for your reporting solution. But before you go into any requirements gathering session, you need to prepare yourself. And the best way to prepare yourself is to take advantage of the best tools that you have available in the market today to help you with this task. The most basic of these tools is, of course, Dr. Google. And if you're working as a consultant and you have a new customer from a new industry that you know nothing about, then just Google it. Google the customer, Google the industry, and understand what's important for that person and for that business that they're in. But if you want to go the extra mile or save yourself a little bit of time or a lot of time, you can use things like ChatGPT. I just love ChatGPT because it can help you so much and save you so much time in certain tasks that I'm honestly always amazed by what it can do every time I use it. In this case, I have here a few examples. Imagine that your customer or new customer is Costa Coffee, and you need to prepare for this requirements gathering session so they can be the most effective as possible and so that you can gather as much valuable information as possible to build your reporting solution later on. And let me give you just a few examples of what ChatGPT can do for me. I asked ChatGPT to give me an overview of the company Costa Coffee. And this is what it came up with. So it gave me a summary of the company, where it's based, who are the previous owners of Costa Coffee, how many stores they have, in how many countries they operate, and it even gives me some highlights of their strategy on sustainability and ethically sourced coffee beans. So this is some interesting information to have. I kept going and kept asking ChatGPT for even more information. I asked, what is the business strategy at Costa Coffee? And I got an answer saying they primarily focus on expansion and diversification and also sustainability. I kept going again and asked, being a company in the coffee shop industry, what are the reporting solutions that I should be developing? And it told me examples like sales reports, of course, customer reports, and so on. So even though these report ideas might look quite generic at first, and they are a bit generic to be honest, I'm pretty sure that they have sales reports, they have customer reports, they have inventory reports. So it is generic to a point, but they do have these reports most probably. I know because they were one of my customers back in the day, so I know they have these reports actually. So this is a better way to open up conversations and to come up with a requirements gathering conversation way better prepared. And again, if you're working in-house, you probably don't need to know the company overview, but if you're part of a team, of a data analytics team, for example, in-house, that are building reports for other departments, let's say HR. I mean, I never knew much about HR and their processes, so I would probably still do this to understand a little bit better what are the processes like in HR, what are the important key performance indicators for them, and in general, what kind of analytics solutions would be good for them. I'm sure this would help me, again, guide the conversation during the requirements gathering session. Now that we've done all of our homework and we are ready and prepared to have this conversation with our stakeholders and our users, let's have a look at what are the right questions that you should ask when we are trying to understand the company, the business processes, the teams, and so on. One of the first questions that you should ask is, give me an overview of your company and the business or industry that it operates in. I think this is a pretty basic one, but that we sometimes forget it exists. And yes, all that research that we've done before, it's just that. It's just research to prepare yourself, because you will still ask the exact same questions to your stakeholders. because you want to know from the ones that are requesting you a reporting solution, what do they have to say about the company, about the business processes, the teams, and so on. That is a lot more information that you can gather from them than you can gather online, believe me. And this is why you should definitely not skip this step and just stick to your online research. Don't do that. And understanding the business, the company, and the way it operates will make it easier for you to understand how you can build a valuable reporting solution that will fit the business goals and needs. The second question you should ask is, can you give me an overview of your role and your team and how it fits into the company overall strategy? This is important for you to understand more specifically how a team operates and what's important to them, because the way an HR team operates is probably completely different from the way an accounting team operates in terms of analytics. The metrics they want to see are different, their processes are different, the things that are important to one team are probably not that important to some other team, so you need to understand the team, the processes, and how all of it fits into the overall strategy of the company so that you can better understand how you can help them with your analytics reporting solution. After summarizing the team strategy and objectives and understanding how they operate in the business, you will be able to create a reporting solution that can help the team or that team achieve the success they want and the value they want. And this question shouldn't be focused on the personas that will be using the report yet. We will be doing that later on at a different stage of the requirements gathering, but you should rather focus on the strategic importance of that team in the business, their business processes, and what is important to them in order for them to achieve their goals. Now we will be trying to understand what is the business need, what is the request, what is the problem that this report is trying to address. But more than that, we need to know why. I think this question is going to be the longest conversation you will have during the requirements gathering sessions. This is where you will understand what is the current state. Do we have a report already? Is it in Excel? Is it in Tableau? Is it in any other tool? Independently of having or not having a report already, we want to understand why do we want to build this new report or this report, and now in Power BI. What is it that is not working currently for you to move to Power BI or for you to want to build this new reporting solution in Power BI? What is the problem that you're trying to solve here? Or what are you trying to improve? And answering these questions will be important also for future stages of the requirements gathering, because, for example, when you're defining success criteria, if you define your problem statement correctly, then it will be a lot easier to define what is the success criteria for when you solve this problem or fulfill this request. One of the most common pitfalls for Power BI report developers is that they focus a lot on what the customer wants or the user wants, and they don't focus on the why. They don't try to understand why do they want X, Y, and Z. And I think this is the secret ingredient to any successful reporting solution, because very often people know what they want, but they don't really think about why do they want it, like, why do I need this here in this report? What kind of insights is it actually going to give me? And are those insights really useful for me or valuable for me? Is it improving a business process? Is it giving me an overview over a particular part of the business that I didn't have before? Will it allow me to improve something in the business? Is it saving time? Is it saving money? What benefit is this going to bring? What is the final goal for whatever you're presenting in that report? Really take your time understanding the actions that your users will take from your report, the business decisions that this report is going to influence, and how that aligns with the strategy of your team or your company, and write that down. And dig deeper. This is very important. If your stakeholder says, for example, we need a report so we can track sales, dig deeper. Understand why. Why do you need that report in the first place? Why do you want to track sales? How does that align with your team strategy? What is important for your team strategy? And don't stop with just understanding the overall problem that the report is trying to solve, or why does your stakeholder want this report in the first place. These conversations usually go into a little bit more detail about the reporting solution itself. Another example, if your stakeholder tells you, I need to see sales by country. Understand why. Keep asking why. This will give you a much better overview, and you will not stop at that what do your users want or your stakeholders want. You will know why, and this is so much more valuable than knowing the what. It's so much more powerful. A lot of the times, customers come to me telling me what they want, and after these requirements gathering sessions that we have, we end up finding out things that they wanted but they didn't actually need in that report, and things that they didn't want and that we figured out later based on the requirements gathering sessions that they actually needed those insights and that information in the report, even though they didn't even think about it in the beginning. So it helps you guide the conversation. It helps you kind of grab that information from your stakeholders, which I know sometimes it's so hard to get. I think the main thing that we need to retain from this problem statement stage is just to keep asking why. I think that the business goals and the problem statement go hand in hand always, and you can't really have a conversation about one without really talking about the other. So usually when you're defining your problem statement, you're also defining your business goals. So this doesn't need to be like separate conversations. It's just for you to understand that these are separate things, even though they might not necessarily be separate conversations you have with your stakeholders. The difference between the business goals and the problem statement is that in the problem statement, we are really trying to understand the request that is being given to us. And in the business goals, we will be focusing more on trying to understand specifically what the success looks like for this reporting solution. Here, you will try to figure out what are the benefits that the business will have with this reporting solution. Is it the ability for the business to get the information needed to answer specific business questions? And if this is one of the reasons, ask them to specify which questions are those. Is it the ability to analyze information from various points of view and gain? And again, if this is a reason, then specify those points of view. Is that the ability to get information needed to satisfy, for example, a regulatory requirement? And if so, again, ask your stakeholders to specify which regulatory requirements are those, or is it a reduction in the amount of time or labor that it takes to complete some tasks, or is it saving money, acquiring more customers, optimizing marketing costs? So what is the business goal for this reporting solution? And finally, define the success criteria. Like I mentioned before, this will be important to measure the value that your reporting solution is bringing to the business. And this is important not just for the business to evaluate their investments in analytics and reporting, but also for you, like I mentioned before. This is how you justify your promotion. This is how you justify a salary raise. This is how you will be able to prove that your work is valuable. So understanding the success criteria for your reporting solution is very, very important. And try to get a clear, defined, like quantitative success criteria for your report. Like if you're saving time, try to specify how much time you're expecting to save. If you're saving money, try to specify how much money are you predicting that you will save, or how many customers are you predicting that you will acquire thanks to this new reporting solution that you just developed. If for some reason, and I know it happens more often than it should, if for some reason you can't really have a measurable success criteria, you should at least get into an agreement with your stakeholders or your focus group on who is going to evaluate this more subjective criteria, so that we understand if it was fulfilled in the end or not, if this reporting solution is valuable or not. So to summarize everything that we've been discussing in terms of the first phase of the requirements gathering, there are 4 things that translated to 5, more than 5 actually. There are 8 main questions that you should ask your stakeholders when you are evaluating what are the business goals and pain points for the reporting solution. These questions relate to the company overview, to the problem statement, the business goals, and the success criteria for your reporting solution. The first question that you should ask is, you should ask your stakeholders to give you an overview of the company or the business or industry that they are in. If your work is not related to consulting again or similar, you can probably skip this question though. The second question you should ask is, for your stakeholders to give you an overview of their role, their team, and how it fits into the company overall strategy. The third question is describing the business need or problem that this report is trying to address. And following up on this question, you can or you should go deeper and ask things like, why did the business decide to build this report in the first place? Why do they want to see these specific metrics or insights in that report? And what kind of actions do they need to take or to drive from this report? You should also evaluate what success looks like for this particular report. And the fifth and final question, main question, is basically finding a way to measure that success of that reporting solution. These questions or the answers to these questions should give you enough information for you to successfully determine your business goals and pain points. And this was all for this lesson. Thank you for watching.